probably the best standard player in the world, given his record at standard Grand Prix that he's plays in. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
He top eights every standard Grand Prix he
it is
plays in.
actually frightening. As he's going to start off here with a Legion Loyalist. So in for one comes the little Goblin. And as we make our way through these games here, you're going to see some creative card choices here by Nelson. As the Cloudfin Raptors going to be what Black starts with here. But his deck, as you said, you and Matthias watched it play against Jacob Wilson, defeating a blue-white control deck to Tom Ross.
Well, the cool thing about Brad's deck is that, it's very aggressive. It has a lot more reach than you kind of give it credit for. The really interesting thing about it, though, is that he has four Skylashers in his main, which are obviously ideal in this matchup.
Now he's going to play a Titan Strength on his upkeep, so he's going to make the Goblin to a 4/1. He's going to take that card and draw it. He's going to attack for 4.
Oh, and it looks like he doesn't have a second land, but he kept that land. He kept the card on top of his deck because it is a Skylasher.
Okay.
So if he draws a second land, he can go Burning Tree into Skylasher, which is obviously
that's a
pretty
really
good start. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a second land here, so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
So Sam is going to start his turn by playing a Judge's Familiar. He's going to evolve Cloudfin Raptor, so that is going to grow in size. We'll get our white die of the screen for you guys there at home so you can see exactly how big the Raptor is over the course of these games. And then we'll see if Sam is going to attack or hang back on defense.
Yeah, I kind of like holding back right here. There's really no reason. Sam doesn't have to get too aggressive here. He's got a Thassa in his hand. Looks like he can afford to not attack here.
Now, one thing that's really interesting to me is that Sam, I don't think, because this is like a brand new brew, he's not going to know what to expect.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure every time he plays against the Mirror or Mono Black or Esper or whatever, he's like, yeah, I've done this a million times, kind of on cruise control. But here, he's kind of giving some pause about, am I supposed to attack with the Raptor or hang back? I don't really know.
I think if Brad had another land in play, he would consider not attacking. But again, it's going to be difficult for deck. Yeah, Brad fails to draw yet again. He doesn't draw a second land, so that Skylasher is just sitting in his hand, waiting to come out, not really doing anything right now.
So now you see a block here with Judge's Familiar on a Legion Loyalist. They're going to trade. And
Battalion wasn't triggered, so
yeah,
it didn't have first strike.
Yet. So is Sam happy with that trade? Is he unhappy with it? Is he going to play a Thassa, which is a little ways away from Devotion? Is he just trying to keep his life total high because he's sitting at 14 right now? I think he assumes that, Brad's deck can deal a lot of damage as Brad's going to take a draw step here.
Oof. Yet another miss by Brad. Forced to just attack with the one. But although he does, looks like a Rubber Built Malka, so he's attacking for 4 this turn.
That's like a lightning bolt, basically.
Yeah. So Sam's going to draw for his turn. He's got a Thassa in play, a 1/2 flyer. Plus he's got the Mutavault that he can use to block as well. So Sam's sitting in pretty good shape right here.
He draws another Mutavault too. Mutavault, one of the key components that actually really keeps this deck together. Now he's got 4 mana.
Ooh, Jace.
Yeah,
Jace.
That's going to put the brakes on.
Quite effective against Legion Loyalists.
So Jace is predictably going to tick up to 5, and now Sam's going to get in for 2 points of damage with Cloudfin Raptor. So Thassa almost there, Flesh Blood the draw, and Brad is going to scoop up everything, all 2 permanents, and go right to sideboarding here. Now, we're going to go over the sideboards in a minute here. Now, my question, of course, you have Brad's deck list in front of you. How many lands is he playing?
Actually, he's running 17 lands, so it's not that surprising that he kind of got a little mana screwed there. I mean, obviously, you'd expect with the scrying, he scryed twice, still couldn't get there. But, yeah, 17 land. We saw Tom Ross. He was running 19 land. So this is a very aggressive version. Again, he's got 14 1-drops in his deck, so he can function off of 1 mana. Unfortunately, he didn't draw. He has 2 copies of Legion Loyalist, arguably his worst 1-drop, and he drew both of them that game. So couldn't put up enough pressure there. After sideboard, he has 2 copies of Gruul Charm, which I think are probably going to come in here. Being able to deal with flyers is pretty important against Mono Blue Devotion. You want to be able to kill those Cloudfin Raptors, the Nightveil Specters, etc. He's got another copy of Legion Loyalist. I'm not sure you want to bring that in, especially when you're dealing with a deck against a deck that has like Frostburn Weird in it.
Yep.
2 copies of Skullcrack, 2 copies of Domirad, 1 Mutavault, 2 Ranger's Guile, 2 Flames of the Firebrand, and 3 Shock. This is interesting. I'm not quite sure. Again, this deck is it's hard to guess what he wants to bring in and bring out. I don't know if you can afford to really board out many creatures. Maybe 2 copies of Legion Loyalist. But beyond that, I'm not sure. Like Flesh and Blood's probably not very good. You can probably bring in a Gruul Charm for a Flesh and Blood, but it's gonna be interesting to see how Brad decides to sideboard because beyond Gruul Charm seems like a pretty reasonable card to bring in. Not sure if you need the Shock or the Flames of the Firebrand though. Beyond that, those are the only cards I would really probably consider for this matchup.
Now, one of the things with red decks that I've always found is sideboarding is always really, really difficult because a lot of the cards kind of do the same thing.
Yeah.
So there's like this overlap of how many of these effects do I want? Does he want to have 4 Titan Strength, 4 Madcap skills, and 2 Robobelt Maka after sideboard, or does he only want 6 of those effects? I have no idea.
This could be one of the situations where he kind of just wants to shave the numbers a little bit. Maybe he wants to have certain cards. I think he might want to bring in the shocks just as a way to deal with Tidebender Mage. But again, this might be the thing where Brad kind of changes how he sideboards depending if he's on the play or the draw.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, probably shock and maybe Gruul Charm. Flames of the Firebrand might be a little at 3 mana. Given only 17 land in his deck, I'm not sure Brad can really afford to bring that card in this matchup. But we'll see what he decides.
Sam's sideboard remains relatively unchanged from the past year. He's got 4 gain saves, 3 copies of Dissolve, a Negate, a Dispel, a Curse of the Swine, a Domestication, a Biden of Thassa, 2 Rapid Hybridization, and a Jace Architect of Thought. That Jace is certainly going to come in because we just saw the damage it could do in the first game, which caused Brad to concede immediately. 2 copies of Rapid Hybridization, I love in this matchup. Can target his own guy. Can target a guy that does get Titan Strength or Madcap skills. We can target his own guy to be able to block a Skylasher that's attacking.
That's the big one.
So that's a huge interaction there. The counter spells or whatever. I mean, Dissolve is pretty expensive, so not going to come in here. Negate's a little bit interesting. Dispel, I think you can say the same thing for. And the Domestication is always going to be able to take something, ignoring Skylasher, but it's 4 mana too much for a control magic in this deck, especially when you're on the draw.
Honestly, I'm not sure there's a lot that Sam wants to board out. That's the problem. I think, honestly, maybe he just boards out 2 Biden of Thassa for 2 Rapid Hybridization.
Okay.
I think that Sam might be comfortable with this matchup enough to say, you know what, I really don't want to board out any of my creatures. That I don't see him doing. And Biden is obviously not ideal in this particular matchup, so I could see him maybe just boarding out 2 Bidens for 2 Rapid Hybridizations, being okay with it.
If I'm Sam, I want that Jace in my sideboard. I want the 3rd Jace. But the thing I would, because I think that's the easy shit.
Well, the problem with Jace is I'm not sure how good Jace is in this matchup, especially on the draw. I mean, obviously it looked good there, but that was only because Brad had a Legion Loyalist in play and nothing else.
That's true.
Generally, though, it's good, but I think if your plan is to just go Jace, it's probably going to die the turn you cast it.
Okay.
Especially on the draw, but we'll see what he decides to do.
So Sam's going to take a look at his 7. Brad do the same. Nelson's going to be on the play first here. Down a game. Both players sitting at 3-0, though. Red-green aggro. A lot more innovative take, even though that's a general name for an aggressive deck. What Nelson and Tom Ross and crew are doing this weekend is much different than anything we've seen in Standard so far.
Yeah, the real problem with red-green aggro decks like this is that obviously they can get these really, really explosive draws, but they don't mulligan really well because, you're running a really low land count, which, sometimes you can function off 1 mana, but ideally you want 2. But you also don't want to draw 3.
Yeah, you want to stop it.
You want to stop at 2 lands. So if you ever get these hands where there are 3 lands, you really it's hard to keep those kind of hands because they're effectively like a 6-card hand anyway. So it's a difficult deck to mulligan with.
See, Black is he looks pretty happy with his 7 cards.
Leaning back.
He is leaning back there, just shuffling them, saying, "Yeah, my hand is the nuts."
That's yep. I have a turn 1 Cloudford Raptor, turn 2 Frostburn Weird. Let's go.
Yeah, you're not attacking me ever for any points of damage.
I will gladly take on your Dryad Militants and your Fire Drinker Satyrs with this hand.
Yeah, no kidding. So he has kept his hand. Nelson's going to take a look at 6 this go around.
So let's see. Is Brad going to be okay with this hand? It looks like he has. Yeah, it looks like he has Sacred Foundry in his deck as well. And it looks like that's the land he's going to put into play.
Ah, Dryad Militant. We've seen this creative deck building before. Josh R. Layton employed this at Pro Tour Dragon's Maze.
Yeah.
With some kind of off-color dual lands that allow you to cast some things. So Nelson does have 2 lands this go around, and Sam actually did not have a 1-drop here. So maybe his hand wasn't as good as we thought. And there's another Dryad Militant and pass the turn back. But any 2-drop here from Black is devastating because Tidebinder Mage and Frostburn Weird are the quote-unquote nuts here.
Exactly. And interesting, Brad doesn't have any green mana. And it looks like he has got a Gorkline Rampager in his hand that he won't be able to...
Aha!
Temple of Abandon.
Attack for 4.
It looks like Sam has a Cyclonic Rift. Don't think he's going to use it here, but... Yeah, you're right. It's interesting. He did not mulligan this hand. I wonder...
And he looked really confident with his keep,
he looked very confident. It looks like he has a Rapid Hybridization. Okay, that's definitely a pretty important card, but again, I'm surprised because it looks really slow. Looks like there might be a Night Veil Spectre in there, so that'll help.
So he's going to go bouncing. You pick up that Dryad Militant, he says.
Oh, wow. So he drew Domestication, which is going to be pretty good. And
The
there is a
Thassa.
Thassa. Wow, so Brad's going to be able to get in a little more damage. Thassa does not have devotion. Pretty far away from it.
I'd say so. Attack for 2 here. Drew a Gorkline Rampager for the turn.
Wow, so Sam drops down to 12. We're going to see Rampager come down. You can domestify that, but it won't stay around very long.
Yeah. That's actually huge here too, because domestication was actually going to play a pretty big role in this game if he just took the 1/1. It would contribute toward devotion for Thassa. It would really slow Brad down a little bit. Maybe he doesn't want to attack in an appropriate way. But now having a 4/4 trampler out there, that's actually a pretty big deal right now.
Yeah. Suddenly, Brad's start that didn't look that amazing looks pretty good for him just because Sam didn't do anything for the first 3 turns.
Sam is going to take the island off the top, put that into play. This is probably if Kibler was at home watching this, be driving him crazy with these mismatched lands. He can't take it.
Looks like he has a master. He's going to get a master out there. Even though it's only going to be devotion for 2, he just wants to get some blockers out there. He doesn't think Brad has a lot of ways to interact with the master, which rightly so.
Almost none.
No ways to really kill a master. He has, yeah, I don't think there's any ways he can actually kill a master ways in his deck. But he can just attack through it. I think he does have another Rampager in his hand. He does have Legion Loyalist, which potentially could just make those tokens unblockable. Or not be able to block, rather.
So there's a Stomping Ground off the top for Nelson. We mentioned how you basically want to stop at 2 or 3 mana with this deck. Well, he's found the number 5, and I think he has the number 6 in his hand right now, too.
Yeah.
So
that's the biggest problem with this deck is once you draw more than 3 lands, it feels like very difficult to win.
Here's a Rampager. So pumping up the jam on the Dryad Militant. Uh-oh.
Oof.
What is this?
So both creatures are going to survive, and they're going to
Wow.
all trample over. So is this lethal? Let's
So that was
see
a
here.
Rubble Belt Maka. Okay, so that's a 7 minus 2 is 5. And then
It's 6, 10. I think it's 13 total. So it's not lethal, but 13 damage will trample over for 1, 2, 3. I think 10 will trample over.
give me that Blood Rush mechanic, baby.
Blood Rush.
2 Blood Rush cards here in Maka and Rampager.
Yeah, so it's possible Sam's going to drop to 2. I'm not sure exactly. It
You see him calculating the damage right now.
might be drops to maybe 9 trample. I'm not sure, but let's see here. And yeah, Brad still can cast that Dryad Militant too afterwards.
Wow, that's like a perfect turn. JC used all of his mana. He gets another creature onto the table. Master doesn't really have a big role in the game. He just passes the turn back, kind of crossing his fingers here, honestly.
Yeah, Master did survive the turn because that has protection from red. Sam does have a domestication, so if he can play a land, domestify the Dryad Militant, and then cast a 1-drop, his Thassa will have devotion, so he can use that to block the Gorkland Rampager and not be afraid to trample.
All right, Sam, what are you going to do this turn?
Looks like he has a Jace too.
And don't forget, he has a Jace, he has a domestification,
And he has the
and he has Rapid Hybrid.
rapid
in his hand, too.
hybridization. That's huge. Yep, that's correct.
Rapid Hybrid's going to be the real trap here.
Yep, so we're going to have the domestification. Yep, and now we can cast rapid hybridization on the Rampager. Make sure that
Yeah.
doesn't trample over. So Sam looks like he might be able to survive this turn unless Brad has a top deck burn spell. Skylasher would be a good draw too. Oh, Legion Loyalist. Wow.
How does that work into the equation here now? Jeez. Okay.
So it's going to be interesting because Sam's going to have to cast rapid hybridization before the attack so that the battalion doesn't trigger
Okay.
and give Brad's creatures first strike.
How much does Battalion matter in this spot? First strike and trample to his guys?
Yeah, I guess it's not that relevant. Sam might still let the attack go through.
It may not end up mattering too much. I think that's
Well,
obviously that's what Sam's trying to figure out right now.
They gain trample, so that's okay. So yeah, he is going to do it before attacks.
Okay.
So Brad's just going to get a 3/3.
Get this man a frog lizard. Oh, Sam, what a nice guy Sam is. Jeez.
Yeah, so this is going to be that was a pretty good turn for Sam because he basically stopped Brad from attacking, and now he's going to be able to untap, cast that Jace, uptick it, and get devotion for his Thassa.
Burn spell outs?
Oh, he definitely has burn spell outs. I mean, Sam's at 2. He's got lightning strike in his deck. He's got he still has that 1 flesh and blood. I'm not sure if he has in his main deck still, but that is a potential out. Let's see, possibly madcap skills.
That can make combat difficult.
Yeah, that can make combat difficult. After board, if he boarded in the shock, which we think he might have, that's another out.
Sam going to scry here with Thassa.
Titan strength, if the battalion trigger does resolve off of, that's another possibility, depending on how Sam blocks. But again, Sam does have that Mutavault too, so he's got a lot of ways to like block creatures. Plus, the Jace is going to make everything -1 anyway,
Yeah.
so it's going to be pretty tough here. I think Brad's going to have to top deck a either another Rampager or a burn spell, which he doesn't have that many of left in his deck.
Draws a mountain to go
Oof.
on the stomping ground.
Yeah, so he drew 6 lands, so basically he drew 30% of the lands in his deck, or more than 30%.
Yeah, and he is. I mean, just gonna pass the turn back, and this is the difficult thing about mono blue, because once they start to actually get their footing, Thassa controls your draw step to make sure that you're always drawing a relevant card, and Thassa also lets you, kill the opponent fast.
Yeah.
Thassa, she does it all. Sure, why not?
So it'll be interesting to see here if Sam wants to actually use Jace minus ability and get some more cards here, or does he want to just keep upticking it?
Well, the thing is, he's got to close this game out really fast.
Yeah, you don't want to give Brad turns to draw a burn spell.
2, 3.
Oof.
Highline Mutavault, pretty easy split.
Well, at least he's not drawing those lands or
That's true.
or having to scry them away for the next few turns.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you about how do you balance your resources now. What can you attack with? What can't you attack with? And he's just going to pass the turn back here. And Brad's going to take a draw step. It's a Giant Militant. And the entire time now, Sam has to basically fade
A burn spell.
a burn spell.
Even Skylasher can get blocked by either the Dryad Militant or one of the Mutavaults.
Stomping Ground going to come into play along with the Giant Militant. Black is going to scry again with Thassa. Bottoms up goes the first card, so we'll take a look at this.
Yeah, and these games feel like such a beating when your opponent just scries every turn, gets like perfect cards they need.
Like Tidebinder, Mage Master of Waves, and Cloudfin Raptor. I think
Ouch.
like Master of Waves is what I mean to say. And I think that's the split.
What are you gonna do? Masters, you have no way to interact with the Master. He has a lot of blue mana symbols in play right now.
Not only that, the big
And
thing
another
here,
Master.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. The big thing here is that there's another Master in play. Also, Master of Waves pumps up those Mutavaults, so those
Yeah.
Mutavaults are actually going to be 4/4, so Sam is doing the devotion count. Isn't it always painful when your opponent is just like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Okay, just 7 guys. Okay, your turn.
Yeah, so Brad, again, we've seen these decks get a little unlucky at times where they're getting flooded out, and it kind of feels like just you can't really do much when you're drawing that many land with this type of deck. But Brad still has outs. He could top deck a burn spell.
For sure. Now Sam is going to...
I think he needs to do it this turn, though. I don't think Sam's going to give him
yeah.
many other turns.
Yeah, I mean, Sam is obviously going to try to close the door. You see Brad knock the top of his deck. Lightning Strike is it you?
Oh,
That is going
wow.
to do it. Sam Black wins this match 2-0 over Brad Nelson. Like it was any question that he was going to take a loss in Standard. No way. Mono Blue Devotion, we've got at least one 4-0. Red Green Aggro, the innovative deck that Brad Nelson, Tom Ross, and crew are working on. Brad picks up his first loss. Now, don't forget, he is the defending Invitational champion.